Okay, so I'm Charlene from Sistership Cycle, and I'm here today with the beautiful Marilyn Ashe Wilson, who I have the pleasure of interviewing today. So, Marilyn, welcome, sister. I would love it if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are, where you live, and what you're up to in your feminine leadership.
Okay, well, thank you. First of all, I'm honored to be here. And I would just like to start like I start everything with a little sage, just clearing the air for all my sisters and everyone who's listening to me and to us. The sacred space, sacred space, sacred space here today. There's really only one way to tell about myself. So much of it is action. So much of who we are is our actions, and what brings us peace and solitude and unity. But, well, I guess to start, my name is Marilyn, and I live in Jacksonville, Florida. And I have lived here since 1989 after trekking across the country most of my life with being raised as a military dependent, and which took me to a lot of different corners of the world quickly and during some serious times of my life. And I think I missed a lot with that, and I gained a lot with that. I trekked through everything, and I've brought all those cultures with me. I lived in Hawaii and Puerto Rico and Haiti, and I was raised kind of in the California coast. So I've always called myself bi-coastal because my father retired in Key West, Florida. So ever since then, I've pretty much stayed on this coast. And a lot of things started happening to me when I started realizing that when I got married the first time, I didn't know anybody to invite to my wedding. And I think that burning fire for community sort of started then. The women that were in my wedding party, I had known for only a year maybe. And I began to realize that something was missing like early on. But I'm basically now still a woman on a journey. I think I always have been. I'm definitely stepping into the queen stage of my life, queen crone. And so I'm kind of a compilation and then kind of an amalgamation of all those cultures that you don't think are clinging to you at the time. We kind of move through life. You don't realize things are clinging to you. And then when you stop and you sit and you look back, you begin to see and you start pulling in those beautiful ribbons hanging from all those different balloons throughout your life. And you think, wow, I've got quite a bouquet here. What am I going to do with this? How am I going to pull all this together and take this through my life? And which one needs to be let go of and which ones need to be held on to?
Yeah. Wow. I have this beautiful image now of a bouquet and lots of ribbons, and that is you. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's actually my logo too, which is the flower of life. And not until I'm actually saying this did I realize that my flower, it's pastels, and of course, the flower of life has all those circles. So it's so interesting how life just you think that you're really planning things, but in essence, it does come together. So sometimes if we can let go of that solution or that and result, it's right there in front of you anyway.
Yeah. Wow. Is this your wise woman is talking to us and encouraging us to just be and let go of whatever we need to?
Yeah, because I'm a vibrational sound practitioner. I'm a drum circle facilitator. I am, I'm a high priestess in training I've gone through my priestess training, and I'm moving into high priestess, and I call myself a conscious connector. And those are all just labels. But then I think I'm really just circles overlapping, these beautiful circles overlapping and making this beautiful bloom. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. And tell me, what is it that makes you want to be out there in your leadership? And what is it that really drives you forward?
Well, I think being raised in the military and raised Catholic, there's something about ceremony and ritual that is part of my bones. And again, it was like those Sunday drives with your parents. At the time, it was not fun. At the time, it didn't even have any essence to it. A bunch of pomp and circumstance. Yet, as I grew older, those cravings for that time, that serenity, that solemnity, if that's a solemn times, that ritual and ceremony could bring. And in the military, people were honored, and they were thought so well of, and there was such pride. And of course, in the Catholic religion, despite a lot of things, there was always a community. No matter where you went, you always had community. So again, this started kind of gnawing at me, this need for ceremony and ritual. And I was moving through all these life passages, and all these things were happening to me, but nobody knew, because I really didn't know anybody. I had been moving through life so quickly, jumping from one state, one city to another, that nobody knew me when I was 5. I didn't know anybody that knew me when I was 5. I didn't know anybody that knew me when I was a teenager that I still knew. So I couldn't go back and say, who was I and what was I like? And have I grown? Have I regressed? Am I still the same? I mean, God forbid. And so I started realizing that I needed to pay attention, that I really needed to pay attention to that myself. I needed to mark some times instead of living unconsciously. So I feel like from a goddess archetype, I think I lived in Persephone and Aphrodite most of my life. I was married several times. I had 4 children, and I was just, everybody was taking care of me, but then all of a sudden, when I was divorced and moved to Jacksonville, I said, I've got to embrace the goddess Athena or Artemis or somebody with some grounding, and to get serious. And I guess when I started doing that, I realized, and talking about that other women also were just kind of going through life unconsciously, particularly in my era, when we had clear roles and you just didn't move outside of those. And we didn't even know there was something else. And I mean, we might have had little tweaks, but so my whole movement and my whole desire to be a conscious connector is to provide that space for women earlier. And in a way that they knew that they know other women are similar, that other women are going through so many of the same things, different roads, but same path. We're all looking for that inner space.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like your early experiences really took you, and then your experiences throughout life took you to this place of longing for meaning and sacred space and connection. And you've kind of brought this all together, and being the conscious connector that you are, you're now providing this space for other women and wanting other women who are younger, women to kind of get this at a younger age, not having to wait so long.
Right.
Yeah, amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my parents died about 10 years ago, and something changes in your life when your parents pass later in life, because I'd had them forever, and I was 60 probably when they died. And I literally felt the baton being passed. I had watched with mostly rebelliousness and grievances, but the minute they passed, the baton passed to me. And I felt my dad was an event coordinator and military, and of course was always doing things in the military and living his life as an artist also. And my mother was all about sorority, the sister groups, which I thought was ridiculous because I didn't know. So something happened when I became the matriarch, and I felt like now I had to really find that purpose too. And I had to sort of begin listening more deeply, and I had to not only leave a legacy, but be a model. Suddenly, we couldn't go to grandma's for Christmas. Suddenly it was, I needed to start the gathering. And so it was just kind of a flow out from that.
It's like you had this when your parents passed, realizing that you're now really at the forefront of your lineage and taking on all that it means to, you know, be that role model, be the matriarch, be the one kind of leading.
Yes. Yeah. It's a
And
big
so,
shock to the system.
right. Yeah. And
Yes.
what would you say is the most challenging thing for you as a feminine leader?
As a feminine leader is really, well, I guess it's realizing that other women are at different places. Some more have moved through things. And so it's not, it's such a difficult thing because you want to tell everything that you've learned. It's kind of like being the mother, trying to teach your kids everything. Well, and I'm not a teacher. I'm really just exploring it myself. And so it's for me, it's been a challenge to have other women just join in and not be afraid, because nothing is going to happen that you really don't want inside anyway. Nothing is going to happen that's not already there, just waiting for you to hear them, you know. And the study of the goddesses, and of course in Sistership Cycle, we go through all of that over and over again, and really deepening into that, you begin to realize that as a woman, you're multifaceted, multi-faced, and if you just stay in one role all your life, whether that's nurturer, whether that's survivor, whether that's the breadwinner, it's a narrow path. It's a narrow path. We have so many different things that we can add, and I think that's where the goddesses teach us. You know, they're the Aphrodite, the sexual one. There's the child. There's the hearth keeper. There's this one, the strategist, the warrior. But we're all of that, and that's super because we can call on those anytime we want. We just have to call on them, and that's how we're whole-bodied. That's how we're whole-bodied. And the drum actually is what took me to that. The drum really is how I lead. And when my parents died and I went for grieving, I went to his crazy senior center that had a drum circle meditation. I'm like, well, I'll try it. I'm not going to go back to work quite yet. So I put my hand on the drum, and it just washes you. And it opens your heart at the same time. There's such that anybody who drums knows that primal beat. And that kind of was the beginning. When I realized what that could do, I began to be the drum lady in the Florida First Coast anyway. And I found that other women also wanted that. Well, isn't that interesting? And so we started circling with the drum. It's finding that thing, that place in your community or yourself. And that resonated with me. So I think if you follow what resonates with you, you'll find your tribe. You'll find the women and then they find their path from that. You bring them in at the heart level, and then they find their path. And if you're lucky, you get to join them. You know, you certainly get to watch them. So the drum began women's drum circles, and I stayed like one beat ahead of everybody else. And I was buying CDs from Christine Stevens out in California. And I mean, I was everywhere just trying to stay ahead of everybody. But I realized that this was the momentum. This was the beat that was going to take me forward. And then that led to all my circles have the drum in it. And then that led to sound vibration. I started using the crystal bowls, which led to the gongs, you know, which leads to the tuning forks. And then you begin to put all that into your circles. And then you have your niche. You have that place where your heart settles, and that other people can just go, oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah, amazing. So I have this vision of you in circle and bringing in all your gifts, all those different kind of ribbons, bringing your drum and all your instruments and all of your life experience. And this makes you, you know, very unique, where you get to shine your gifts and like claim your own kind of niche in a way in your community and really stand out for what it is that you offer and provide for women.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And what is the most rewarding thing about what you do?
Well, for me, I feel like I'm in my final stretch, you know, as I'm doing queening ceremonies next month, and we're all stepping into the queen archetype. And so I think the rewarding part is the smiles and the tears and the joy and the sharing and the community. Finally, the community for me, finally feeling like I'm witnessed and I can witness other people. And sistership has helped a lot with just the languaging. To me, if for women, it's about getting the language right. So we're understanding each other and supporting each other. There was a time that the word championing each other. Well, that was such a hard word to say, but really it's witnessing. It's holding up and it's supporting. And so I think the rewards come like that. And if you're doing what you love, the reward is such an inner reward too, because you feel like you're doing exactly what that pure child that came into life, what that pure child wanted was just joy, laughter, love, tenderness. It's simple. It's simple if we stay on it.
Yeah, beautiful. So that providing that space, that sacred space for women and people to come together and really sharing, being received, being witnessed, and the end product of that is like the joy and getting to celebrate and be with one another in that, and that return to innocence that you just shared, that innocence of a child who is just so full of life and joyful.
Yes, true.
So I know you're a member, one of our members in the facilitator tribe. What is it that you take away from being a member, and how has Sistership Cycle supported you in your feminine leadership?
Wow, probably in so many ways. I have been doing circles for years, since 1990 officially, and probably before that in other forms. But so I had a lot under my belt from the aspect of gathering women together. But the substance and the essence of it's almost like Sistership Circle is the center of my flower of life now. So it's like the center, and all these different petals come off of that because it holds me. It doesn't judge me. None of the women judge. We're learning how to be women together. That to me is so important, learning how to be supportive, non-competitive women that support, and learning that the more we do for each other, the more that gets done just out in the world. So I'm totally inspired by what the other women have done, and realized that for a lot of years I was more or less treading water, trying to find my spot, trying to find my space, trying to get that center instead of this, that, and not knowing where I was going. It kind of brought the structure in for me. I'm an event coordinator, but I'm not very structured because I'm a creative. So I was a writer, and so I liked writing the formats and all that, but I couldn't seem to get a template, something substantial. And so that Sistership and Tanya has been great with that. You've been great with that, and allowing that space for me to just be in my life that's running here and there and hither and yon, and understanding and being patient. And we don't get that a lot as women. We don't get it. And instead of it getting better, it's getting worse. Mm-hmm. So if we can do this in small pods and small circles, it will eventually roll out. It will eventually roll out to the world.
I love that. And I love now I have the image of the flower and Sistership Circle being in the center.
Totally.
And it almost sounds like it is that space for you to come and be held and kind of really ground in and receive like that structure that was perhaps missing for you.
Yeah, and the global part of it. You know, we're not just where we live. It's great to have on the ground live ceremony. There's something sacred about that. But understanding the consciousness of women is the same everywhere is really, really huge. Huge for us.
Yeah, right. So the space in Sistership Circle, it's for women from all over the world to come together and to, like you said, learn how to be a woman in the world and learn what that means, experience that. And
Right, right.
yeah,
So true.
yeah. And tell me, so what would be unique about coming to one of your circles? I know that you've shared, the drum and music and
Yeah.
everything.
Probably a lot of that. It's one of my circles probably is because I'm not teaching. I do indirectly by expanding, but there's not teaching. It's just sharing. It's that interaction, that knowing that you can come in a safe space and literally step across that threshold of the busy craziness and come into a space where you're held. And with the chimes and with the drums, you really are transported to this other dimension just for a while. And once you do that, you begin to want more of it and more of it. And then we learn how to be that way all the time. And that is, I think, what we're all searching for, is to be able to hold that as we move into the world. So I think that's it. It's that kind of transporting them into another space and time, doing things that they wouldn't normally do. I mean, what do they say? Change what you do every day if you want to have a different experience. So you have to offer women different ways of being and doing things and help them stretch. And I think that's what
Mm.
happens.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. I almost get the impression that every time, if I was to come to one of your circles, every single time it would be different, and there would be a different experience to be had, a different state of being to experience just by you being in your being and your presence.
Yeah, it would be. And Sistership Circle does that also, because with their themes and following along with those, and not only have I learned a lot through it, it's validated that what I've done through the years, I was on target. I just needed that thread to pull into my bouquet. Just
Yeah,
needed that, that
yeah,
centering. It's a very ancient way that sistership and Tanya and women need. We need that ancient teaching,
yeah, yeah. Return
however
of
we get
the,
it.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, would you be willing to lead me and lead us through through something, one of your offerings, through a process now?
Sure, I guess we could take it out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll bring my drum into this. So I'm the opposite handed, but I normally ask everyone to put their left hand on their heart, left hand on their heart. And if you don't have a drum with you or something like that, just tap your upper heart and just allow yourself to listen to the heartbeat. And then just begin repeating. Listen to the heartbeat. Listen to the heartbeat calling you. Listen to the heartbeat calling you home. Listen to the heartbeat calling you. Listen to the heartbeat calling you.
Mm. Wow, that was lovely. I literally felt myself just being called back to the ancient times, and almost like where there's nothing but a knowing. Um, wow, powerful,
It is
amazing.
powerful. It's
Thank you.
powerful because it's ancient. You're right. Women were
Mm,
the first drummers.
really, wow.
Yes, yes. Lane Redmond taught us that. And yeah, well, first drummers. And we're just returning to it because
Yeah.
we're returning to the heart. We're
Mm,
returning to the heart. And that's where it starts. Our heartbeat It's all about the heartbeat.
Yeah. Wow. I've got goosebumps now. Oh, thank you for that. That's so beautiful. Really amazing. I feel my heart is open, like really opening from that too.
And so easy, right? So
Yeah,
easy.
so simple, and yeah, a good lesson in keeping things very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So tell me, what's in store for you next?
Well, I'm trying to go more with the flow, but I am on my last stretch, and I'm stepping into what I would call more that queen archetype, as I spoke earlier, which is really more about my own awareness and my own consciousness and what things really resonate with me actively. I'm not an act, even though I was born and raised in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I was having kids and being married. I was not, out holding any signs. So, but I want to make a difference, and I want my voice to be heard. And as I get stronger with circles and sistership, I feel more ready to get out in the world, and I feel like I'm supported. I don't want to become invisible, and I think one of the fears as you get older is that you do become invisible. And I want to embrace getting older. So I'm doing things like I just finished the Red Sand Project, it's out of California also, and it's raising awareness for human trafficking and sex trafficking, and it's redsandproject.org, I think. And you just pour red sand in the sidewalk and cracks, and the whole idea is nobody falls through the cracks. And I'm doing a lot. I'm also a life cycle celebrant with the Celebrant Institute and Foundation in New Jersey. And it's all about doing ceremonies across all life stages and healing and transitions. So larger community healings, such as Las Vegas, such as the fires in California, such as the hurricanes here in Florida. The communities are grieving and they're alone. So if we can just do simple ceremony, in May, I'm doing the Mother's Day, because we're losing our mothers. We're losing, or we never or haven't had mothers, or for most of our life, if we were adopted and things like that. So I'm trying to do ceremonies like that, more community, that raise the awareness and gather people together in a joyful grieving, which is by sharing and telling your story. My mantra is live it, love it, and pass it on. I mean, you have to leave legacy. My father gave me that, he gave me his life story. I wrote it for him. And it's so important that we leave that legacy. So that's what I really want to do more now, is making that small difference in larger community.
Yeah, I hear that it's so important as you're in the last stretch now, as you say, to shine brighter and brighter, to radiate even more and leave that lasting legacy. And you see that by creating opportunities for ceremony, by creating the ceremonies for this joyful grieving, it could be a way that you can really leave that lasting legacy.
I like that. That's a good analogy, Charlene. You have to get brighter as you get older, or you do become invisible. Yeah. So, what have I got to lose? I can wear purple now, and I can wear red hats, and, I can wear feathers in my ears if I want. And so that's the beauty. It's the beauty of it.
Yeah, beautiful. I think we can all learn from that. And, as I get older, I think I'd love to take that on, get brighter and brighter. Yay.
Yay.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And where can our viewers find out more about you and all of your offerings?
Well, I have a website, and it's MarilynAsheWilson.com, ASHE. It's also floweroflifeceremonies.com. Mm-hmm. And I'm on Facebook, and I have a meetup. And I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you so much for your time today, for sharing yourself, your gifts, your wisdom. I've learned so much from you, and I look forward to watching you and seeing you get brighter and brighter in life and in the facilitator tribe as well.
Thank you. Marilyn. Can I take us out with a drum roll?
Yeah, of course. Woo! Beautiful. Thank you, sister.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.